What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to another Acrylic Thursday. How to paint a portrait of a pet portrait in acrylics. Getting started right about now. So I'm not going to rely on a careful drawing with the start of this one. Instead, I'm going to work with kind of just basic shape and build my way around that way. The idea is that acrylics dry pretty fast, so any adjustments that I'm going to make are going to be pretty easy to do because this is going to be dry pretty soon. So I'm going to start off with the ears, and of course I'm painting Hugo. I had a bunch of suggestions for other breeds, and we'll do some other pet portraits in the future depending on if you like this or not, and we'll get to explore different subject matter in the future as well. So just kind of getting the shape of the ears, which gives me somewhat an idea of the composition. I'm not worried about the the accuracy of the drawing because, well, like I was mentioning before, it's going to be quite easy to adjust any of the shapes on the fly. So let's see, the chest is going to be somewhere about there. Just use the yellow ochre for now to draw. I'm not worried about putting any of the white just yet. A little bit of photographic distortion is okay because, again, it is a pet portrait, so photographic distortion is almost expected at this point. Get a general concept of where the paws are going to fit. Hey Oak, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it may be. Welcome everyone. Outside shape of Le Hugo, our Shiba Inu. Leg, other leg. Basic concept is there. Now we're gonna go ahead and start to put in the sky. Nice and simple start. Not a stress in the world. Real easy. Real easy. A little bit of yellow for the sky, just so that it's closer to a sky blue. Now, because the canvas is white, it's going to appear a little different to you, and it looks like the camera may be struggling a little bit, so I'm going to change the light sensitivity in just a second here. Hey Libertas, welcome. This is an exciting live stream to do today, as pet portraits are probably one of the most lucrative avenues in painting you could do, unless you're me. And I struggle with any kind of commissions, so we're not even going to talk about how to do that. I'm just going to show you how to paint it, and then you will find your way into the pet portrait business, or not. It's up to you. Just like a pastel, mixing right onto the surface is what we're doing. Like I said, no careful drawing is needed because when you're working with basic shapes like this, it's really easy to make adjustments. The trees and all that we will add afterwards because this will be dry in the blink of an eye. Okay, so now that I've got somewhat of the sky, we're gonna put some of the green for the trees. It's basically just going to be a plane change for now. Gonna have to paint a little bit, add some medium. Specificity is not that important right now. What's important is basic shape. Just have fun with it. Now, most dog portraits that I've seen on the internet don't include a background. Maybe you have to pay extra for pet portraits with backgrounds. I don't know. By the way, I heard the term, you know the term cost an arm and a leg? I think that actually came from the painting commission business. Back in the day, it would cost more to have an arm and a leg. So, a little fun fact for you there. As we paint the background, start to paint in the background for Hugo. And this is going to be kind of like an off cream color. Yeah, something like that. With a little bit of yellow. Something like that. That's pretty close. Maybe it's too warm. That's pretty close. A sandy kind of color. And I took this picture of Hugo at the dog park. So I'm not really a big fan of dog parks, to be honest. I mean, he was in the small dog section of the dog park, but you know, it's not that I don't trust dogs, it's I don't trust owners to train and raise their pets properly. Not that there's a perfect way to do it, but there's certainly some danger, stranger danger, just like, you know, with your kids at the playground, you never know. But anyway, this day it's a good day. It was a chill, calm day at the dog park. Hey, Hansel dog. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so we're working our way down here, killing off the white of the background with some spots that I've missed there, but we'll get to it eventually. Okay, so now we're going to paint the bark that he's standing on. Bark. I'm going to paint the bark. So this is a whole composition here. So it's a landscape, some still life, a portrait. It's a lot of stuff going on here. So bottom plane of the bark. It looks like his feet meet up right on the edge of this. Of course my hair is covering it, but there we go. Add some color to it. There we go. Libertas here. One day I'd like to know what you think about AI doing art. Same thing as I would think about as a camera taking a picture. It's a mechanical thing. I mean, sure, it can look like a painting, but we know what it is. There's a program involved in it. It's a mechanical thing. It's not going to come up with anything new until, you know, the Turing test or whatever. Once they start passing the Turing test. But what do I know? You know, I don't know anything about how advanced the softwares or how advanced the math has become. I think it's more of a math thing. I don't think, there's any major concern about it yet. Till they try to start taking over the world, which will probably happen at some point. But until then, we can just hang out and paint all day. Covering the white of the canvas is important here. It's not an issue if I don't have the exact color for this just yet. And part of the screen is missing here. Let me fix that for you. There you go. Now I can adjust the lights on the camera again for you now that I've covered the white of the canvas. Most of it. There's still some left on the bottom. I missed a spot. AI creating references, that's fine. I mean, I don't really see a huge problem with it if you're using it to like the same thing. I mean, like oops, I'll just put the wrong color. Like a camera taking a picture. Like I used the camera to take a picture of Hugo, and it's not exactly the way that I would see him because, well, there's photographic distortion there. And there's going to be AI-induced distortion on AI art, so there's going to be distortion in that. And depending on whatever filters we choose, do we want the AI to paint like Rembrandt, or we want it to paint like whatever? I think it's just I think AI to art is going to be like the air fryer to cooking. Like, sure, you can use the air fryer if you want, but you could also still use the oven. That's what I think. I mean, obviously it's going to revolutionize the world in many ways. It's kind of like when photography came out and people thought that photography wasn't going to go anywhere, but obviously it did, but it did in its own way. So I don't know enough about the software to like have a very firm opinion, and it's not like my opinion or anyone's opinion is going to dictate what the economy does, because I think, and this is all speculation, but I think it has more to do with consumerism, what people are going to buy into. That's what I think is even bigger than the AI itself, because it relies on the consumer. I will take another trip back over here, and it's mostly dry. I mean, dry enough. But that's an interesting topic. What does everyone else think about that? AI references. Using a reference AI, I mean, I don't have that big of a problem with it. To me, it's just another tool. Just like, not that I've ever used one, but I mean, it's just a tool. But we'll see what everyone thinks. They were taught you it could be a powerful tool for traditional artists. Yeah, I mean, if you can use it to create references and you don't have to use Unsplash anymore, then that's great. But what type of reference will it create? I mean, will it create something that is going to have to be, everything is going to have to be altered anyway, because it's not like painting from life. So there's that. This is a warm grayish color because it has cool and warm elements to it, so I'm going to lean towards the cool for a little bit, then add the warm elements later. And that value will also fit here. As we continue to draw. And now we're going to add the light. We won't add the light yet. Let's go ahead and start to guesstimate where the white pattern is going to eventually fit. So this is going to be a hue change. Okay, so let's try that. That's a little bit too blue. Maybe a touch of green. Okay, that's a little better. I'm looking at a series of shapes right now. It's all rather abstract. If you're not comfortable working with abstract shapes like this, then drawing it out with a pencil is probably what 95% of people would do. Try to think of it as a series of shapes. His tongue is going to fit somewhere over there. And in a sense, this is easier to work this way with acrylic than with oil paint, because with acrylic I don't have to worry about the layer underneath peeling off, or I mean like getting in the way. Gonna eventually move that back in. So these are the dark patterns right here. Missed a spot. Where's Randy to tell me I missed a spot? Back there. Hey, Libertov. Oh, thanks. That's Hugo in the dog park. Hugo the Shiba Inu. The one and only. Just kidding. There's so many Shiba Inus in the world today. It's unfortunate they're notorious for having bad attitudes. Hugo's always been a wonderful, wonderful boy. Okay, so now I'm going to add some dark shapes. Okay, looking at this as a series of shapes now, it's gonna feel weird, it's gonna look weird working this way, so the safer way is to draw it out, but I didn't want to. Looking at a series of shapes now, the tongue itself will be the same value. Looking at negative shapes here to help me draw. And it's amazing how it just comes together if you trust the shapes. The harness there. Of course, his harness has to be in there. He's always wearing it. We were actually just at the pool academy, Hugo and I, today. So look at the power of shapes as opposed to just using lines and filling in the lines. This is the polar opposite of a grid or a paint by number or like a tracing. Polar opposite, this is chiseling out shape. Darker shape for where the snout is gonna fit. Now, before the eyes go in there, there's going to have to be planes surrounding the eye sockets as well. This is no walk in the park. This is no walk in the park. You have to be very precise with your planes. While we let that settle in, we can put another round of values on the background. So how's everyone doing today? How about, have any of you painted a pet portrait before? Who here has painted a pet portrait before? Mark, what's going on? You were promised snow. I changed my mind last minute. It was not the season yet for snow. I hope you were feeling better, Mark. Jacob Finton, you're painting a portrait right now. Yeah, Mark, I'm as unpredictable as the weather. Basic shapes is all it takes. Simple shapes, basic patterns, and now you have more detail on the trees. Nice and simple. Just couldn't get any easier. Simple shapes. Let the brush run out of paint. Give them some dog booties. Yeah, they're called booties, I think. Dog booties. Hansel dog, you wrote. Are you using an extender to make the palette stay wet? Make the paint stay wet longer? No. I'm letting the acrylic do what it does, and this is like almost dry. Whoops. So I'm trying to just let the acrylic be acrylic and not force it to dry any differently. I like that it dries fast. Hey Mark, I don't know where he's hanging there. I know you'll feel better soon. Now we'll go back to the shapes here. A little bit more yellow. He is a tan Shiba. Tan Shiba Inu. Just use straight yellow for now. Well, yellow is white. White acts as a coolant. Trust in the shapes. A little bit more ochre. Oops. That's the last word you want to hear from like a doctor or a dentist. The last thing you want to hear them say is oops. It's kind of what it's like when you're a portrait painter. Oops. But these shapes are so simple and workable that mistakes, they happen, and it's okay. You can paint right over them. Hey May, welcome. You said I have friends Yorkie, mainly black and white. Let's see, Tummy and Paws, and of course a grand dog, Holly, the golden colored Labradoodle. Awesome. Yeah, pet portraits are the best, especially if you can capture the expression of the pet, just like a human portrait, no different. You can capture the expression, but yeah, it's kind of one of those things where I was saying before, is you kind of have to dissociate from the fact that I can't think that this is Hugo, which is hard to do because he's Hugo. So thinking in a series of shapes is really important here. like that's a triangle. It's not a foot. It's a triangle. Your accuracy will improve as well if you can think this way. Very distinctive shapes here. Start to add a pinkish hue now for his tongue. Which again, series of shapes. Think of it as a series of shapes. You know, Pet Portrait was one of the first paintings that I did in high school. Painted, his name was Patches. He was our family dachshund. And I remember I didn't even have an easel. So I just put the canvas on top of a clothing basket and painted him that way. And we're talking about 16 years ago, a long time ago. So I've painted many pet portraits in my lifetime. Done a couple commissions. Hey, Hansel dog. Oh, thank you. I like you. You like how carve out the shapes with color. It makes it realistic. Thanks. It's a weird thing to do because we're not used to seeing and thinking of our pets this way as a geometrical puzzle. And it is weird for me too, even after 16 years of painting. But it is, it's an interesting phenomenon. Everything is shapes. Just like painting a human. And then, of course, once we get all all the big shapes, then we'll switch to smaller brushes and super subtleties will follow. But we're not quite there yet. And it's a lot to ask in this stream to do this for me because, well, I'm asking a lot of myself because there's a landscape involved too. Landscape, portrait, and still life. So we've gotta keep that brush moving. But I like a challenge. some reflection, some blue back here. Of course, it's gonna gray out slightly next to the tongue, his fur. Now we'll go back to the interior shapes surrounding the eyes. Plane change here. Looking at it as a series of shapes is the goal. Working our way up towards the eye socket. Well, there we go. Getting closer. Hey Pokemon Nerdist, he wrote, isn't it wild how acrylic takes Ala Prima to the next level? It does, yeah, it does. In some ways acrylic is, I don't know, in some ways it's not Ala Prima because it dries, right? So Ala Prima means, well, Ala Prima means all at once, but usually we refer to it as wet on wet, but it does take Ala Prima to a next level, to a different level, because, well, if you can be decisive about your planes, all of a sudden, things like overlapping warm and cool colors is not an issue because it's dry. So yeah, it definitely puts things into perspective there. So much can be done with it. I agree. Interior planes. Still remaining somewhat in the shadow. Now there should be some more light there, here. Little creases on his forehead. Yeah, but the drying all at once, it definitely helps, for sure. And of course that crease for his forehead, how could we omit that? That crease on the forehead, whenever you're painting a dog that has a crease like this, use this as the center line. Because it literally is the center line. And dogs are so nice to us that they help us draw them by having a center line there. Okay, so now it is time, drum roll. We're gonna put our first guesstimation for his eyes. Just like with human portraits, if you can hold back on the eyes for as long as you can, it will help. It'll help keep you away from thinking that, thinking it's a portrait. And this is basically like throwing darts, trying to get the eye placed correctly at first try. It almost never happens, but we will do our best. Pretty close. Pretty close. Hey Shavu. Hey Pokemon Nerdist. Oh, thank you for saying that. You oil paint as well. I inspired you to try Transparent Mummy. I had to order some of my own from Rubla. Beautiful color and handy when doing Rembrandt. Yeah, totally. Well, thank you for that. I do really like using those earth colors whenever I can. Yeah, thank you for that. Alrighty, we have blocked in the big shapes, and I think I might have actually got his eyes correct the first time, which usually doesn't happen. But looks like it went well. Yeah, Pokemon Nerdist, the Rublebs are definitely there's a different feel to them, and the linseed oil with Rubla is a different smell too. I like the way that they smell. Some more for the greenery. Different planes. I'm going to change the light sensitivity again. I keep having to adjust it for you. You can see a little better. Now, of course, we're going to go back into the shapes and start to adjust the colors as we go. This was our first guesstimation, but no longer is accurate enough. This has to be warm, but not too warm. Dark, but not too dark. Something like that. I don't usually get these colors right at first, but I did that time. And you know I had to paint this one on a canvas because you do know I'm probably going to keep it and frame it and stuff. That's definitely one painting that I won't sell unless I totally bomb it, which could still happen. Now this color is no longer accurate enough. Oh, you ordered some lapis lazuli from Michael Harding. Awesome. I've never tried that color. Haven't been able to try it yet. Pokemon Nerdist. The question is, have you painted any Pokemon using oil paint? That's the real question. Working general to specific is key. Let's see, Pokemon Nerdist Road. If you haven't ever tried Gazo paints, they're great quality also. You can speak to their malachite. Cool. Gazo. Gazo. I don't know if I've ever heard of them. You've gone way further than I did with the pure, what are they called? The earth pigments. Pokemon Nerdist. You have an Eevee painting, 30 by 40. Done a few others for your kids and friends. Awesome. Yeah, Eevee is a nice looking Pokemon. Fox-like, I think. You know, I have a Pokemon question for you. As you say, Pokemon. It seems like Pokemon is one of your big areas of knowledge. There is. Is there really a way to watch Pokemon from the beginning to the end? Because it feels so disjointed. I don't even know what they did with the most recent Pokemon. Oops. You don't want your doctor or your surgeon to say, "Oops." Then you were like, "Uh-oh." But that actually kind of worked. I like that shape. I'm gonna leave it alone. happy accident, I guess. I like that color. It's tough to get these values in the shadow. So you really like to use Old Master colors when doing that style. Don't spend money on much, but art supplies are sort of an addiction. I know what you mean. Same thing with me with like pool related stuff. I always like to collect things that I shouldn't collect. Mainly because I can't afford it. Now we're gonna go back into the lights. This color, which was a bright yellow, will no longer suffice. And of course this is not going to look light until we push that slightly darker. Let's do that. Slightly darker. And it's cooler relative to his fur, but it can't be as cool as the background, so it has to have some warm elements in it, like that. I really don't have any problems with these acrylics. These are the cheaper stuff, but they seem to work just fine. And of course we'll put some of the green shadows, bluish, greenish, whatever. Whatever. Put this in here. Do I know what it is? Nope. It's just a shape. Of course, we're going to borrow from Rembrandt. Dark against light, light against dark. You know how it is. Borrow from Rembrandt. Even though we're painting a Shiba Inu. Try to get the right value, right color. By the way, 4 minutes till the break. Pokemon Nerdists. Well, thank you. If you're interested in prints from me, we actually just bought a printer. So we'll test out some prints, and we can test it out tonight, and then I'll be here tomorrow, same time for Pastel. And if you can't make it, then I'll be here same time next week as well. And we can work something out. Maybe I could use Etsy, or you can, contact me through email. You could also use my Patreon to contact me as well. But thank you for having an interest in the prints. When I take a break, which will be in 3 minutes, I'll ask my wife if we can try out the printer, and then I can let you know for sure. For sure, for sure. But I definitely will be selling products in the future. Prints, maybe some like t-shirts, mugs. I'll have to use different like resources to produce them, but it is something I am curious about. Maybe in the future we can do some giveaways or something. Let's have some fun with this. One of the nice things about where I live, you know, I always complain about where I live because there's no art scene here, which is fine with me because, well, it's a safe neighborhood and all that. Billiard Academy is close by, but also I live really close to a post office. So I figure I'll be hopefully making trips to the post office a lot. Yep, 1 minute till the break. I'll ask Milady what she thinks about trying out the printer. Oh, thanks, Pokemon Nerdist. Yeah, no, I don't have a website as of now. Probably just I don't know, like Instagram or what are the social medias of some sort. But eventually, I do want to create a website. But I think for me, the biggest thing is being able to stay consistent with these streams, if you know what I mean. I mean, we're creating 3 paintings a week together, so definitely we're gonna have a lot of stuff to do stuff with. A lot of stuff to do stuff with. That being said, alright, we are going to take a break. Anyone that has not seen the video that I played during the break, it is a video of my Shiba Inu Hugo doing some of his fantastic tricks. So I will be back in a couple of minutes and we will continue working on this one as scheduled. Usually after the first break we get into the subtleties, so we'll get into the subtleties here with a smaller brush when we return. So I will be back in a little bit. Hopefully you enjoy the video of Hugo. Alrighty, I have returned. Alright, no problem, Pokemon Nerdist. I'll see you next time. Hey, mate. Oh, okay. Alright, let's go ahead and continue working on this painting. And I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. Maybe not just yet. I feel like there's a little bit more that can be done with a bigger brush. Homemade frappuccinos are always good. Keep me alert. So I'm a tad bit tired. I'm on the tired side today because I went to the billiard academy with my doggy Hugo. Starting a painting takes a lot of energy. Working with big shapes. Okay, we're gonna go back to the ears. The shape of the ears are a little too pointy. And we can get the color now for sure. Closer to the red. So about the prints. Right, I was gonna respond about that. So wifey says by next week we should have something going print wise. little bit more towards the red. That's a closer shape for the ears now, not too pointy. Now we're gonna have to use the background color of the tree to fix this one. Close enough. I'll just edit it a little bit. That's close enough. That'll do. Now, of course, I'm gonna have to be I'm gonna have to paint really thick. I have to cover this part of his ear. Let's paint directly onto this, so we have the thickest paint. Still a little too tall. Okay, there. Closer, closer. Okay, that's a very difficult edge. But in the beginning I did say that we would adjust the drawing with the shapes, and that's what we're doing. It's just a tad bit, it's a little difficult, but I think we got it. A lot of importance on the light, a lot of emphasis on the light. Capturing the light effect is very important for this composition. I'm gonna have to take this towel, I got a little too much water on it. Swap it out with another one. Okay, now we can switch to smaller brushes. I may have let paint dry on this one. No matter. No worries, we have other ones. These are just cheap brushes from Michaels. Okay, switching into smaller shapes. Let's go already. Okay, so we're going to start with the light. Now we'll start to add specificity. Kind of like a lightish gray blue under here. The value can't be that light though, or else it'll jump. So something like that is good. That will work well. This can still get lighter. I hope your daughter has a wonderful birthday, Pokemon Nerdist. Hopefully you buy her something Pokemon related if she likes Pokemon. Gonna fix that back ear again. Tough shape to get. That's why we outline things, but of course I didn't want to. I didn't wanna, so now I pay the price. Now for the Shiba Inu color, I'm using a lot of yellow ochre. It's a very useful color for that tannish yellow. When you're painting a backlit composition, backlit, it usually conveys the strength of the light, the condition of the light, the best. But it's also really difficult to put in subtlety in a shadow. It's almost never the top choice of portrait artists. But I chose to do it because I like this picture. I chose it for selfish reasons. Shadow under the tongue. And this shadow is a tad bit cooler on the reference, but I'm not going to paint that yet till I'm happy with the surrounding values. These do dry a tad bit darker, so I need to be aware of how it's going to look when it dries. Question for everyone. Do you have any pets? What pets do you have? And I don't even like the word pet because Hugo's family to me. But yeah, we have our Shiba Inu who's going to turn 2 years old in December. Raised him since he was 11 weeks. You can also comment after the stream ended too. If you're watching this in the future. Hey Gustin, thanks for watching from California. Glad you liked the painting thus far. Remember that we are drawing with shapes, even with the smaller shapes. We continue to refine. For example, I exaggerated his tongue quite a bit in the beginning. See how simple it is to move that shape up? And as we're doing that, we're adding a different value. And we're adding more form. Yeah, thank you everyone that's been joining consistently. I think this is the 3rd week. I don't remember anymore. Is this the 3rd week? Yeah, this is the 3rd week. So remember, we'll be back tomorrow for pastel. We'll do another pastel portrait. So far that is the most challenging for me. It's learning pastel. It has taught me so much that I've been able to apply to both oil painting and acrylic. Mostly oil painting, but still so much to learn. So Gustin, you have a 3-year-old beagle plus a rescue dog, mixed sheep and great mix of sheep and great Parisian. That's how tired I am. I don't know why I'm extra tired right now. From hanging out with Hugo at the billiard academy. And in order to get this effect of light, I'm going to have to do something extreme here. The light effect is really important. I'm glazing with white. That gives us our light effect. Bam! Now lots of light. Different planes even for his tongue. So there should be some reflection, which is kind of tough to paint. I'm gonna have to try this color first. Close. I guess it's close enough. Kind of works. And if you can get the right values faster, the painting tends to paint itself at this stage as you're putting all the pieces together. And eventually I'll work towards the teeth, which I brush carefully pretty much every night. Those chompers. Make sure to brush your dog's teeth. They rely on you for pretty much everything. Hey, Giselle. No worries. We'll still be here for a while. And we'll be back tomorrow too for Pastel Fridays. Subtlety in the shadows is difficult, but I have a big range here. As long as this doesn't get as light as that, we'll be good. But if it does, that's okay. And of course for the light effect, this is going to have to transfer over here as well, but not as bright. Let's do that now. Color is going to be close to the surrounding colors, but slightly cooler. is stand back a little bit. It's not break time yet, but I think it would help me to stand back. And I always recommend this to everyone, stand back as often as you can. Sitting and painting is not ideal, but it's what I'm doing in order to get this camera shot. So far, so good. Okay, now color-wise, this shadow has to be a touch cooler. So I'm partly glazing here by using the transparency of the paint. Making sure it doesn't get as cool as that. Tricky stuff. Use a little bit of broken color. This Shiba side eye is always giving you the side eye. I'll take a little gamble here, as this needs to get lighter. Glazing the white. In this case, just using the white. And if the paint allows, I'll paint into it wet into wet. Hey Jonas, welcome, welcome. A bit of green color under here. Hey Libertasio, did you also paint the shadows on the ground? I think so. I put some little shadows there. I didn't quite get as involved with them yet, And I probably won't paint them the way they look in the picture because it's a little distracting. Those lines are too distracting of our model here. So I will be editing the shadows as much as possible. I guess so. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the side eye. That's a very Shiba Inu thing. Give you the side eye. That's a Shiba thing. I'm gonna push the light on here. So this painting is asking a lot out of the color range that is possible with these acrylics. And so far, I'm impressed. Yesterday we went to town on that oil painting portrait, human portrait. But the acrylics really have a lot of strength. No problem, Libertas. I appreciate the questions as it does help with the stream. And also I just like to chat with everyone. So please, anybody, feel free to ask any questions you may have. Any painting questions? Don't think that you're gonna distract me. I actually enjoy being able to converse with you. Hey Jonas, thank you. I wouldn't say it's harder to paint dog portraits. I'd say that the skill set required for dog portraits versus human portraits are pretty much similar, but human portraits are going to be a little bit more difficult because there's a cutesy factor with dogs that lets us get away with certain things. Not so much for commissions because people are very aware of the likeness of their doggy and are very quick to point out the snout is too long or just something like that. Like, so a different skill set in the sense that dog portraits is a different anatomy, similar stuff, right? This, like, they got a skeletal structure like we do, eyes, like 2 eyes and a nose and ears, but they have different local colors as well, like the patterns on the fur and all those different nuances create different sets of challenges. A40 BDG. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked the painting. This is our almost 2-year-old Shiba Inu Hugo. I'll paint this darker plane, different brush required. Yep, it's a Stay Wet palette. And I haven't used it much, but I do have the Golden brand glazing liquid. I don't think it's visible on the camera. It looks like white. Yeah, it's a little bit off camera, but it looks just like white. Not using it much, but from time to time, like for the darks, definitely I'll use it. And I'm pretty much out of space on the palette here. Yeah, this Stay Wet palette works wonders. Yeah, Libertas. Animal portraits are funny to paint, absolutely. With different facial expressions. For sure. I would agree. Now in the composition we can see a main diagonal starting to appear from bottom right to top left. So for me, not a question, but I'm fascinated with the way you've painted Hugo. All my animal portraits have started with rough drawing with burnt sienna, then under painting before building up the fur and the skin. Yeah, I did kind of. I think I touched on that a little bit in the beginning, so that I'm thankful that you're mentioning that again, because most of the time it's safer to build your pet portraits or any painting really with a linear drawing, and that's what I usually recommend my students do. But with this one, also granted time, 3 hours is not that much time, even though it seems like an eternity on a video. But mostly it's because of time. I need to cover faster. So that's why I didn't even bother. I usually don't bother with a line drawing. But it is safer to do one, for sure. Now the idea, the concept is actually the same though. If you're moving shapes around, it's the same as lines. It's just there's more stuff involved in moving shapes. Let's see. So May, so you've painted lions, elephants, and giraffes, as well as cute baby animals. All realistic with painterly. They're fun to do, definitely. All in acrylics. Awesome. Yeah, acrylics does give you a lot of different techniques than oil painting in the sense that you can do many layers in one day, one sitting. Glad you like the explanation. So, covered a lot of stuff in a relatively short amount of time. And I attribute that to starting with shapes directly. Now we get to enjoy all these fine subtleties as we push and pull towards a finish. So, Gisela, how many different brushes are you using? What is the major difference between people and animals? That's a very interesting question. Difference between people and animals. I mean, painting wise, I know you mean painting wise. Uh, so brushes, I'm just using a cheap Michael's acrylic brush. Um, this is the Artist Loft, really cheap. And same thing. When I started, I just used a cheap synthetic acrylic brush. So nothing there that different. Difference between people and animal portraits is the awkward stage. There's not that much of an awkward stage with uh, paintings of animals, which makes them more forgiving than paintings of humans. We tend to be a little bit more critical about the awkward stage when we're painting people, more so than painting animals, depending on who you're asking. But most of the time, the awkward stage is not as painful with a painting of an animal because of the cutesy factor, right? Like the drawing could be incorrect, but it may look cute. So that changes the level of intricacy in the fine finish. You don't need as much of that. And people tend to like the fur. People that don't have a lot of experience with painting animals or people that are not in the art world will attribute a really they will think that a painting is really good because wow, look at all those details on the fur. Just not that difficult to do. All you have to do is get the big shapes, and then while you're watching Netflix, you did it, did it, did it, did it, did it, did it, did it. Like just putting in shapes. It's not like the fur itself is something that is that difficult, it's just tedious. But it takes precedence to the untrained eye as something that demands more skill than it does. Same thing with human hair, beards, facial hair, right? Like, it's not that it's that hard, it's just it's tedious. But with animal portraits, animal paintings, people tend to really, they get really impressed really easily with, look at all the fur, stuff like that. So that's a huge difference there. Yikes. Wrong value. Yeah, a lot of times you'll see like advertisements about pet portrait $79.95 or whatever it is. And I think a lot of times it's not really hand painted, it's probably either AI or like a program, like a filter. The ones that are hand painted, if the artist doesn't have like a high level of training, they're going to focus a lot on the detail of the fur, how hyper realistic is the eye, and they're not really going to focus on things like composition, color relationships, expression. Oftentimes the background is going to be nil, not much of a background. Things like that. That's what I've found on the internet. But consumerism is a thing. I mean, there's a market for that. And if I were smart, I would jump into that market. Oh, 3 minutes till the break. Can't believe it's already been another hour. What happened there? You know, painterly things like keeping the paws like that is fun for me. There's a famous John Singer Sargent. What's not famous from him anyway, but there's a famous doggy portrait that he did. Definitely worth taking a look at. And seeing how he left the paws unfinished. It's a lot to learn. Let's see, Giselle, you wrote, notice that I switch between 2 or 3 brushes when doing oil portraits. I think that's a great idea. Less cleaning up between switching. Yeah, with oil paintings, yeah. With acrylic, not so much. With acrylic, it's so easy to clean it. And they dry right away anyway. So before the break, I know we're about to be there, but I want to make sure I have something down for the teeth. The canines. Yeah, canine right there. Interesting to paint that canine. I'll share a story with you before I go to break in here. This is his one of his baby teeth, along with my first gray hair is in here somewhere. But anyway, so this is baby tooth. This was one of his baby teeth. Baby canines. It was a canine. Probably that same one, actually. But anyway, so now I will take a break. When we return, we will finish up this painting. Probably don't need the whole 3 hours, but we'll see. When we return, we'll get into the subtleties some more. Probably do a tad bit more for the structure of the face, the light effect for the background, things like that. So question before I head to break. Do you have students start in black and white or monochrome, or do you recommend jumping right into color? Definitely with drawing first, then getting into monochrome before color. And students work their way up from a limited palette up to more colors. That's typically how I start my students off. That's before getting into color. Students learn about values. Before getting into values, students learn about simple shapes. And even before that, students learn about how to work with lines. So we go from lines to shapes to values to colors to compositions. So we will take a break now. I'll be back in just a couple minutes and I'll play the video of Hugo once again. And then in the future I'll edit another one so that you can have something else to watch. So I will be back in just a little bit. Okay, I have returned. So let me double check, make sure my audio and everything is working. Seems like all of that's working. So what do you say we go ahead and we finish this painting? I appreciate everyone that's been tuning in. And everybody that's watching this as a pre-recorded video. This is the home stretch. So tomorrow we will do another portrait in pastel. I bought a slightly darker gray paper for tomorrow. Anyone that may be new, remember the schedule is Wednesdays portrait, or not necessarily portrait, but Wednesdays is oil paint, Thursdays is acrylic, and Fridays is pastel. All of these streams are 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And I will be creating short reels of these paintings as well. I figured out how to do that. I posted one to Instagram yesterday. I'll figure out how to do that again and post it on YouTube. One thing I like to do with these composition paintings with a background, middle ground, foreground, is to flip them over. I learned that from my teacher, Paulden Hamilton. So I'm going to flip this over in just a second here. His harness. He wouldn't be complete without his harness. Always remember, dog people, harness is better. You don't want to have, especially if your dog pulls, you don't want anything to pull too hard here. It could collapse their trachea over time. Dogs are meant to stay inside the home. Don't keep your fur babies outside all day. If you do, I'll find you. Not in a good way. So making it look like the fur is covering the harness, which it is. It's a little more difficult to see in the picture. Don't try to train your dogs through fear and intimidation, but rather through love and respect. If they know that you care for them, remember they can sense these things. Our doggies can sense it. They can sense if you're afraid of them or if you're angry, anxious, or whatever. Love and respect. Respect them, they will respect you back. No such thing as pack mentality. Don't buy into that. That's old ways. Hey Augustino, thank you for joining. Thank you for your kind words. Hey Giselle, what was the best way to promote you? What do you wish to be shared and how? I guess is a better question. I wish I knew the answer to that question. If I knew the answer to that question, I'd probably be making a better living than I do right now. But I'd say the best is just to be here. You don't need to feel like you have to do anything extra. I'm glad that you're here. I'm definitely no experts in marketing. I know competition is fierce on YouTube now, more than it was in 2020. Luckily for me, I started YouTube before the pandemic, so I didn't start YouTube because I was at home quarantining and stuff. I started it because I wanted to, way back when, 2017 I think it was. But I appreciate you just being here. You don't have to do anything more. Well, thank you for sharing it on Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, I'll start making more reels out of these. And I know that will have a positive effect on the analytics, I think. I think that's what you told me. And to all my doggy people, always remember the first thing you want to train them is just to acknowledge you. First thing you want is for them to acknowledge you. Again, I'm no expert though in training doggies. Just from my experiences. And you really want to get them to trust you, especially when it comes to clipping their nails. It's really important that they trust you. Break that trust, and you will have a very difficult time trimming their nails. Start progressively, don't just start cutting their nails right away. First, play with their paws, get them comfortable to allow you to touch their paws. Then over time, bring the clipper closer. Eventually touch their nails with the clipper, but don't clip. And then of course you can, after you learn how to use the clipper, you can use the nail grinder thing. I use both for Hugo. Now his paws have a little more definition. Hey Barbara. Oh, thank you for that comment. I'm glad you liked the painting. A lot of pressure on me for this one. I wanted to create something with you that I myself would want to have. I think we did all right. The nice thing about these acrylics is you don't really know that they're acrylics. At least I don't know they're acrylics till I remember that I painted it with acrylics. And I'm telling you, these acrylics are just fine. These aren't the expensive ones, but they work just fine. So from, what's the quickest and average time your colors take to get, oh, your course, sorry. The quickest and average time your course takes to apprentice level. So to get to apprentice level, it really depends on how much time that you put into it, into the projects. So with my students, this is the first semester that I am being more strict with my classes, dedicated projects, dedicated skill building projects, as opposed to just students would be able to paint whatever they wanted in the past, and if they didn't want to use the projects they didn't have to, but now it's a requirement. The quickest way, the quickest time interval, it's hard to say, but if somebody was at it, like, I don't know, at least 4 times a week, perhaps they would get to apprentice level in about a year, maybe, I'd say. And even then, I'll still work with you at apprentice level, guiding you through your own projects. I have, he was just here earlier, Mark Watson, he's closest to apprentice level, and I know that he's been taking classes in other places too, but in the future, when he reaches apprentice level, students that reach apprentice level, I will give a certificate to, and I will also promote their work, guide them through studio paintings, coming up with their own concepts. I'd say maybe about a year if you push through, but really you can take all the time you need. The semesters will repeat, so there's no rush. But these are dedicated classes, dedicated courses to guide students towards more of a classical realism, being able to, of course, produce paintings that, paintings that look like they were painted from life. But you never know. I mean, somebody could blast through them and reach apprentice level in maybe like 6 months. I mean, you never know. But as the saying goes, quality over quantity. And you want to be able to take your time with it and dedicate as much mental energy towards learning. That's what it is this is a little bit, let me think. Yeah, this needs to get wider. Make sure his canine is still there as I add this shape. That gives more to the rear. So you can see his back feet are actually quite scrunched. I think he was probably afraid of falling off of it, off of the little branch or the stump. Is there a material list and what is the estimated cost of materials for the course? Oh, the materials are really simple. For example, I'll go ahead and just play the first video.
Project 1, light and shadow.
And let's see, there. So there you can see
Of canvas and any thin
for the first project, the first lesson,
or oil paint brush.
You need one vine charcoal, burnt umber and white. You can use oil, water mixable, oil paint, pastel or acrylic. One 9x12" cotton canvas. Thin, medium size, thin brush, or like one small brush and one slightly big brush, just like what I used today. And what I do is I guide students through checkpoints. So this is one checkpoint here. You follow along with this. Another checkpoint is
mixable oil paint.
Right. Probably shouldn't be. Anyway, another checkpoint would be right. Where was it? There. That's another checkpoint. So things like that you follow with the checkpoints. That's gonna make it interesting when I do a time lapse. Oh well. So yeah, you don't need that. You don't need to spend a lot of money on the materials. It's not that much money. Estimated cost money wise, I don't even think you're gonna break $50. Not even 50 with materials. And you can use acrylic also. You don't have to use oil paint if you don't want to. And for the checkpoints, when I give students feedback, if a student does not, if I feel like a student hasn't completed a checkpoint, I won't let them move into the next part. So you must complete the checkpoints before moving into the next part. So I'm very, very keen on students learning in the right order. I'm not going to have students just jump and start to try to paint like this, because in order to paint like this, you need to be able to have, have the short painting like studies and then long painting studies, building your way towards these longer alla primas. This is showing everyone what's possible, not necessarily what I recommend you start with. But it's always fun to experiment. Now we're gonna have to put some little spots here for the whiskers. Usually with oil paint, it's easier to paint whiskers because you just scratch into it. But because the paint is dry, it's gonna be a little tricky. It's tricky. There goes Hugo protecting the household. Little whiskers. Now we'll go back into the sky. And I will have to use a dry palette. I don't think I have. I'll just use the lid of my Stay Wet palette. Blue and white. I'm just using the lid of my Stay Wet palette. I go back to the sky. Of course it gets more blue as we move up, so I'm going to now do that. Should have switched to the bigger brush for this, but that's okay. And we'll add some more depth into the landscape background. Okay, that's pretty good for the blue of the background. I had to use a dry palette, meaning the lid of the Stay Wet palette, because I needed a pure blue. Okay, clean the brush. Clean off the lid also. At least someone clean it off. Palette knife. So I know this isn't the usual stuff you see here, but hopefully you have enjoyed the stream. One of something funny that my teacher Paulin used to say is kind of cynical. He would say, paint what you would like to have on your wall, because chances are it's probably going to stay there. That's what he used to say. Such a positive person. But kind of makes sense in a way. Paint what's in your heart. Not so much because it's going to be difficult to sell it, but just paint what's in your heart. So fall is coming up. November, October, all that stuff is coming up. The wifey had an idea that I paint some pumpkins and sell them. So I might end up doing that. Anybody wants a painted pumpkin from me, let me know. And there'll be all acrylic paintings on the pumpkins. I'm actually kind of excited to do that this year because I have more experience now with acrylics than I did in the past. That's the sound of an attentive doggy. Hey, Carlos, not sure who that is. Oh, it's not. It seems like it's late in Brazil. I'm going to use some of the glazing gloss medium for this dark here. Trevor said you could almost believe you could hear the dog barking. It's getting so realistic that the painting can bark. I'm going to change the light sensitivity yet again because I don't think it's showing the true colors. quite a vivid painting. The color of the lights in relation to the color of the shadow. Starting to create a decent light effect. Alright, thanks for watching from Liverpool, Trevor. So, yeah, it's pretty late. Usually with oil paintings, I like to wait for them to dry before signing, but with acrylic, since it's going to be dry right away, I sign it then and there. So remember, anyone that's interested in signed prints, let me know. Or if you would like a print and you don't want me to sign it, that's okay too. Unite, thank you. I'm going to change the light sensitivity yet again, because at least on my screen I can't quite see the colors all that well. Could just be my monitor. Yeah, so let's do that. Let's try it again. As I do want to create reels with this. Get real. I'm gonna create reels. Now you can see the Shiba side eye. Shiba Inu. Inu Shiba. That is Hugo. The Shiba Inu. Remember, this Stay Wet palette is really vital for acrylics. Anybody that wants to use acrylic, you would need this palette. You absolutely need it. Before you buy expensive acrylics, you need the Stay Wet palette. They should have called it the kneaded palette, just like the kneaded eraser. It is vital to acrylic painting. I don't know if you can hear me. If you can hear me, my laptop died. I didn't realize that my laptop was gonna die on me. I'm still here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a picture of it. And I guess that'll have to be the end of the painting. So I'm gonna take a picture of it and show it to you. So I'm still here. It's just my laptop died. That's gonna mess with everything actually. So let me know if you can hear me. I can't use my camera anymore because my laptop is kind of dumb. It doesn't let me charge while I'm using the thing. So hold on a second. I'm going to put the picture of the painting instead. And you'll see the final painting now. See, this is why you gotta paint fast, because your equipment is no good. Lousy equipment. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, like I said, I can't charge my laptop while I'm using my camera. It's beyond the scope of this computer. It's not really good for MacBooks, really. They're supposed to be good, but this one's not that good. Alright, hold on just a second. Wow, and now the image isn't really showing up. This computer is no good, man, I tell you. But I appreciate those of you that are still here. We got some technical difficulties. Alright. Some weird zigzag things going on my screen. So, yeah. That's the finished painting. We're gonna have to call it finished now because my laptop is dead. It was dead for a second there. Luckily the stream didn't end. Thank goodness for that. So this is the part where I'll just hang out. Ask if there are any last minute questions. Yeah, no, Trevor, my computer died because I'm not able to charge while streaming with my camera. It's really silly. Yeah, the quality of the picture is not very good. I just took the picture from my phone. I'm gonna have to take the picture again from my laptop. I mean, from my camera. But I'm gonna let this run for a little bit because I'm gonna need it for my reel. We're gonna create a reel with this. Yeah, it looks pixelated. I know, but that's all I can do with it now. I don't have access to my... See, if I plug my camera in again, it might die. It's weird, it's never died this fast before. Yeah, the waviness. Yeah, it looks like that on my computer. On the iPad it looks okay, but on the computer it looks wavy. Yeah, you know what? I'll connect it one more time. And it's probably gonna die. So I'm gonna connect it, let it die, and that will be hopefully the final image. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. I'm connecting this one more time, and it's probably going to die right away. Okay, so there it is. That is the finished painting. Thank you so much for watching. We'll stay here as long as we can till the computer decides to die. Maybe if I can get one more brush stroke in before it dies. And it's because Apple changed their USB thing. That's why I'm not able to use the camera. Talk about pressure. I gotta get this right first. Okay, I think I got it. Ta-da! I'll sign it later. But yeah, that's about it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Sorry about the technical difficulty with the computer. I will be back tomorrow, 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for Pastel. I wish you all the very best, and I'll see you on the next one.